Hi everyone, I hope you are doing well. We're finally here, y'all. Fucking 3-4 months later, I'm finally here. I'm finally ready to launch my channel. Better late than never, right? But yeah, I think I just low-key underestimated how much time, energy, and research would go into researching my sources and really backing it up, making sure I really know what the fuck I'm talking about. And yeah, I'm finally here. I just got out of my head. Procrastination, perfectionism, I put those bitches to the side and I said, you know what, fuck it. New year, this is my bitch, it's my Jordan year. Taking it by the horns. So yeah, I am excited and let's get into this video. This is gonna be a very casual but also intellectual chat. So grab your tea, grab your lighters, grab your glasses, whatever you do to chill. Whether you're doing something, some chores, you're on the road, or you're just bored, sit down, let's chit chat. As a quick disclaimer, it's windy as shit. It's been windy as shit for days, so the wind may cut in and out. And also, if I look down from time to time, it's just me referencing my notes and my script. So yeah. The end of the 19th century was a period of unprecedented upheaval. Within an entire generation, the entire consciousness of life had changed, with science challenging the deeply held views of the world. Freedom, which was a key characteristic of the modern world, meant an expansion of options. But before we really get into modernity, discussing it, what is modernity? How do we define modernity? What is our working definition, if we have one, of modernity? Modernity can be defined as a difference in the way that we think. During this time, a bunch of new ideologies and schisms and isms were born out of this time, such as rationalization, bureaucracy, and social stratification. Where traditionalism saw the world as having a basic order, such as feudalism, the divine right to rule, and the monarchy, as people became more rational in their thinking, they started adopting new ways of thinking, new ways of rationalizing with the world, and ideas such as calculability, methodical behavior, and reflexivity were born out of this time. Religion was the key spark of this change. As people started to move away from the Catholic Church and branch out into their own denominations, Protestantism became very popular, and the Protestants had their own ideals of how to serve the Lord, serve the earth, and this became known as the Protestant ethic, which inspired these modernistic ideas and also what birthed capitalism. So essentially what modernity does is that it displaces us and our localized areas become phantasmagoric. That's a big word for Elmo. So what this means is that it's simply more than a loss of community. This feature of being displaced in our community is integral for making us more globalized and to interconnect more. It's not necessarily an estrangement from the local, but more of an integration within the globalized communities of shared experiences through cultural and informational settings that we share. I was watching a YouTube video that talked about modernity and the features of modernity and what sets apart modernity from traditionalism. And from that video, I was able to pick up on 5 key characteristics of modernity and what makes us modern. The first characteristic was the separation of time and space. During the traditional era, when the sun was up, you're at work. When the sun goes down, you retire. Life was very cyclical. The invention of the clock allowed for standardization, and it separated time from space. Another key characteristic of this was the disembedding of social systems. We are now able to think more globally, more stretched. We're not limited to the confines of our own areas. Money was also disembedded in this time and space. And what it did was that it depersonalized. Back then, if they wanted to borrow something, let's say a horse, or to trade something, you would have to trust that person's moral character. You'd have to know the person or have someone vouch for you. But now with the introduction of money, it depersonalized that. So we now no longer think of in terms of a value of a person, but we filter everything through commodities and money. So essentially what happened is that people started using more abstract systems, time and space, and value with the use of tokens and symbols. So it allowed for better planning and standardization. Abstract systems are quite complex, and we have to trust the experts. Modernity required faith, trust in people that we don't know, and learning to choose an expert system to contribute to. More than ever, it required the choice. But it's not the choice to whether we want to participate or not participate. It's the choice to pick a system you want to, trust. Pick your poison, basically. If you don't want to participate, tough, but you're going to have to participate in some way. Essentially, we began to use abstract systems, time, space, and value with the use of tokens and symbols. This allowed for better planning and standardization. These abstract systems are quite complex, so we have to trust the experts. Modernity required faith and trust in the system, but more than ever, it required choice. But what happens when these abstract systems become too complex? We have to trust that the experts know what they're doing. Think of things like traffic lights, pharmaceuticals, food, television, the internet. None of us really know how these systems work. Trust always involves risk, and it was an integral part of the modern world. But what happens when we're done dirty? We may stop trusting the system. Think of people who don't trust banks, so they keep all their cash under their bed. People who don't trust smartphones, so they just have burner accounts. Essentially, modern life is chaotic and unpredictable. But what the modern world promised was to free individuals from dependence on the land and tradition from an identity they inherited. It promised the idea of self-creation. Now think, where else have we heard this rhetoric before, where if you apply yourself really hard, trust the system, work hard, maybe you too one day will get there and have all these markers of capital and wealth to show people that I have beat the system. I am a modern. The American dream, which is a lie. But do we see where all this rhetoric is born from, where it started? This shit just hasn't come out of nowhere. This shit has really, these motherfuckers know what they're doing, feeding us lies. So essentially, this system is very optimistic, but it's taken all the control out of our hands. And essentially, we have to trust someone else to be in control and trust that they have our best interests at heart, which they don't. Here to tell you they do not. They want to make a whole lot of do-re-mi. All right, so globalization. What is globalization? According to my textbook, globalization can be defined as the rapidly developing and ever-densing network of interconnections and interdependencies that characterize modern life. And most scholars would agree that the process of globalization really took place and increased for Africans in the last decade of the 20th century. So the modern world is shrinking because geographical distances have become less constrained of the flow of information, technology, products, and people across other territorial boundaries. Through economic trade, corporate expansion, political alliances, military conquests, the internet, and the TV, the world has become more structurally intertwined. Now, what does this mean? This means that now our everyday lives are no longer being shaped by what's happening in our local government, but what's happening on the other side of the world. In Africa, Malawi especially, our generation has been more engulfed and mostly influenced by cultures of the West, mainly the US and the UK. And our entire school system was set up on either the US or the UK. I went to an American style school and we didn't learn squat of African history, not a drop. I knew a whole lot of fuck everything about the West, but a whole lot of fuck nothing about Malawi, about Africa. And I think it really was in geography when we had this segment in American, geography, and I know all the 50 states by heart, no problem. But when we got to Africa, y'all, the way I was confused. Some countries I was even like, I was actually really embarrassed. I was like, damn, what's wrong? What's the problem? And you even see it in literature. We had American literature and British literature. You're telling me there's no African literature? No, these are things we don't really think about, but we thought we're being engulfed with, the first world, and they know all these things, and we're now expanding our horizons. But in turn, we were estranged from our culture. And with our parents, in their generation believed that opportunity, they wanted us to have a better life, to have access to all these things. And that has always been synonymous with first world countries. So they wanted us to fully immerse ourselves in this culture. But by immersing ourselves in their culture, we're obviously going to pick up on some of the ideologies and the rhetoric. Western culture is very individualistic. African culture is very collectivist. So there's a bit of there's tension there that happens when in your own home country you feel like a foreigner, you feel like an outsider, especially in my family. Sometimes if you can relate, when your family looks at you and they're like, we don't understand you, you're weird. They still have not gotten used to the way I talk, but it's like, bro, you guys had me around Americans since word go. I spent a good chunk of my life living in the US. What did you assume was going to happen to me? How was I just going to pick up on the opportunity side and not pick up on the rhetoric along the way? So the result is now a cultural disconnect with the language, customs, and our culture. And to quote Marshall McLuhan, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, the world is becoming a global village. And the most significant factors shaping this process of globalization are political, cultural, and economic transformations. Some view globalization as a homogenizing force that's leading to a unified, interconnected world society where the world's population is integrated into a common culture. How so motherfucking ever? Globalization is tied to the expansion of Western capitalism and culture. Let me repeat. Globalization is tied to the expansion of Western capitalism and culture. What does this mean necessarily? According to my textbook, and I quote, "This is a homogenization or universalism bred from conquest and the perpetuation of global inequalities. As corporate capitalism and the ideology and consumerism continue their invasion of national and local cultural ways of life." What does this mean necessarily? So they're not spreading democracy or human rights. Well, the bullshit that they love to sell us. Essentially, they're trying to remodel the world in their image while siphoning off the profit that comes off with increasing flows of technology, goods, money, and people across other national boundaries. Everyone playing in our faces, pretty much. They're playing in our faces, lying to us that, no, we're going to come over to your side. We're going to share you what has worked for us. It hasn't, though. What has worked for us? They see that what's going on over there. Capitalism is to the end. The U.S.'s economy is dying, trust. As staying there, the system is collapsing, it's crumbling. It's not working for them. And they know that. But now as the world is getting more global, they're like, you know what? Africa, these other countries, let's go lie to them again, like we always have, and feed them the BS. And because we have always thought, the first world, America, wow, they're coming to really pick us up. No, they're not. They're siphoning off of us to keep their system going. That is not working for them there. Because there, shit is falling apart. Shit is falling apart. Trust me. So remember those factors I touched on towards the end of chapter 2? We're going to get more into them now. This is going to be a lot more technical, a lot more intellectual. So put on your thinking hats, and I hope this explanation made sense. It took me a couple of reads to understand, but I think I'll be able to get across what the book is trying to get across, but less confusing. So in the later half of the 20th century, Scottish sociologist Leslie Sclair traced the emergence of globalization and distinguished between 3 types of transnational practices, or TNPs for short. These were economic, political, and culture ideology. Now for the economic. Foundations are the major transnational corporations, or TNCs, whose powers have made capitalism a dominant global system. Think General Motors, Apple, Sony, Nike, and those who control the TNC control the flow of manufacturing. And then the next section was the political. And this is made up of the transnational capitalist class, or TCC, and these are the central shapers of political practices. And these are made up of individuals who control the major TNCs and the media, some elite politicians, think the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, or members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and they see their own interests as best served by and identify with the interests of the capitalistic global system. So essentially their job is to stabilize the political environment to ensure profitable marketing of goods and services around the globe. So a lot of these politicians, they're closely aligned with the flow of capitalism, goods and services, because they benefit off of it. So they'll come to us telling us that, oh no, if you vote for me, I'll do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They're not. They're only coming to stabilize the economy so we can keep buying shit. We can keep giving them our money, our resources. Because if their benefit is our loss, pretty much. And then in culture, it's essentially the practices that are found in consumerism and the meaning attached to globally marketed goods. So this is based on the values and attitudes aimed at instilling artificially created needs for products by the TNCs. It induces individuals to equate personal satisfaction and happiness with the continual purchases of commodities. As a result, we lend our monetized consensual support to the same motherfuckers who are responsible for perpetuating both global inequalities and exploitation of human labor and natural resources. So essentially, they create these goods and they attach these false needs to them, making us feel like we need something even though we didn't really need it. And because we want to look like we're succeeding in this capitalistic modern world, we buy these things as markers of wealth, not because we need them, but to show others that I'm doing it. I'm doing it, basically, but you're not doing it. When you think about how much money you are giving up, to what are you really benefiting? Like, what are you really benefiting? And at a certain point, you have to just start realizing that these people are lying to me. I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting my energy, I'm wasting my money. These designer brands, name brands, they're not really anything special. They just put a name and then the price marks up because they know we're gonna buy it. They have attached that need, and it's that personal satisfaction to be like, I have a Gucci bag. I have Bottega earrings. I have an iPhone. Things like that, but does it really matter? Who the fuck cares? But anyway. And the capitalistic world economy isn't just for trading services, goods and services. It's the commodifying of labor power in class relations, which separate workers from control of their means of production. So the modern industry is intrinsically based on the division of labor, simplifying the tasks into simpler parts, cheaper, and it speeds up production. Bonus for the producers. However, less skills are needed, work gets monotonous and mind-numbing, and we lose our autonomy. To use your brain, there is no individuality, there's no thinking, there's no creativity. We are just now machines. We are commodities, helping them. And in the end, we take our money and then we go back to them, giving them the same money we worked for crap and scraps. Crap and scraps, basically. Anyway. But yeah, we're literally exchanging our bodies for literally a small ass fraction of the producer's wealth. Again, a bonus for them, but a minus for us. If y'all really knew how much these CEOs be making, and for them to be telling us at every end of the year, oh no, we can't give you guys a raise. Hey, there's no money. Hey, are you sure? Are you sure? Really? You're lying. The opportunity side of modernity was stressed more strongly by the classical founders of sociology. According to Marx and Durkheim, they saw the modern world as troubled, but they believed that it would outweigh the negative characteristics. Quite the idealist, huh? Marx believed that the class struggle was the source of the fundamental schisms in the capitalistic order, and Durkheim believed that the further expansion of industrialism would establish a harmonious and fulfilling social life integrated with division of labor and moral individualism. Damn. They really, they had the best of humanity at heart. They were like, no, we trust you. No, guys. No. Weber, on the other hand, he saw the modern era as paradoxical, in which material progress was only obtained at the cost of an expansion of bureaucracy that crushed the individual creativity and autonomy. The assumption that the emergence of modernity would lead to the formation of a happier and more secure social order has clearly been debunked. I think the jig is up. I think we can see that that is not what has happened. Like Weber said, we're in a cage. We have no choice but to participate in the system, in capitalism, because without it, we die. Real shit. You need to participate in order to live. We have no choice but to participate in capitalism against our will. But they just assume that, no, those guys, they have our best interest at heart. They have the whole population's best interest at heart. This is for the expansion of everyone. No. It's a betterment of the few by exploitation of the many. That is capitalism. That is globalization. All these izations, isms, it's for the few to benefit off the exploitation of the many. We are the many. Now that we've talked about all that, we've really gotten into modernity, we've understood the system, we see how it's working, how they really want to stress that this is a great system, the opportunities, all that stuff, trust. Let's look at the risks and dangers of the modern world. When I was reading in my textbook, I was able to identify 7 different risks and dangers of the modern world. So I'm going to talk about each of them a little bit more now. So essentially, when they mean the intensity of the risk, it means that the menacing appearance of today's society. We live in the world where the threat of nuclear war is literally always looming around. We have this uncontainable population growth. The global economy seems to be falling apart. Matter of fact, the world is on fire. Real shit. It's giving we're in the end days. And with the expanding number of contingent events, this means the worldwide extension of risk environments. Our resources and services aren't under our local control because they can't be locally resourced. Everything now is about out there. We're getting everything from outside. Nothing is really in the hands of one single country anymore. We all play in this little dance with America and friends being Big Brother and us being, those people in, I don't know if you guys have read 1984, but it was like, anyway, ignoring me. With the created environment, socialized nature, we have altered the environmental issues. We have expedited them. And I was watching this documentary on Netflix that talked about how there are 9 biomes of, we can divide the natural world. Of those 9, 5 of them are in the danger zone. If we reach the danger zone for all 9 of them, you know what's going to happen? Global extinction. Global extinction. And it seems with climate change, all of us are kind of a little, I don't know if it's naive, ignorant, unsure, scared to tell ourselves that we're actually doomed, but we're fucked. High key, medium key, high key. And these companies, they're not gonna stop. They don't care about the world. That's expensive. Even if they have this money, which they do, they want to make more. Greed. They are going to cut corners. They're going to do what they can. They don't give a fuck how it's affecting the world. They're going to be able to buy ways for them to, be okay. It's us on the ground who are really going to be feeling the butt of the pressure. With the institutionalized risk environment, like I said, the transformation of nature by human knowledge systems, we're all fucked. And it seems we're either in Delulu, lying to ourselves, confused, or we just don't want to know. And it's unfortunate because there's not really much we can do with these large companies. But again, we're going to be the collateral and they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. With the awareness of a risk as a risk. During traditionalism, religion and magic provided ways of seeing any uncertainties in risky endeavors. It was riddled in superstition. Even now in our culture, we still do have a lot of superstitious beliefs and, all of that stuff. But rational thought and the scientific method now took over as ways of predicting the uncertainties and the risks. Now they were able to be like, okay, based off of this, we can do that. Again, methodical, what is it? Methodical what? Y'all remember. I forgot. What is it? Calculability, methodical behavior, and reflexivity. Yeah. And with the well-distributed awareness of a risk, this is the widespread lay knowledge that is accessible. But again, most people stay ignorant and misinformed, and experts aren't really fully forthcoming about the risks. I don't know what it is, but people don't like to read no more. Real shit. We don't want to read. If you are getting your information off of TikTok, the Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, bro, I need us to start reading things from a .gov, .net, .edu, something. Guys, read. It doesn't have to be a fucking 50-page anthology, but read something. Read an article, inform yourselves. Read. If there's anything I can, it's read. Read. And the last one is the awareness of the limitations of the expertise. It's dangerous when a set of dangers and risks may not be fully realized by the experts, but no corporation can be wholly expert in the consequences of experts' adoption of possible risks. Essentially, nothing is ever 100%, and we underestimate how selfish these people are. These corporations want to make money. Do you really think they're going to give us a full rundown of all the possible risks? And no, they're going to paint us a better picture. Be like, yeah, it's risky, but we're the expats. We have looked over it and it's going to be great. We're going to benefit off of this. It's going to be great. We're all going to be happy. A small group is going to be happy. Now that we've really understood modernity, we've talked about it, we've talked about the system, we have talked about the risks and the dangers of the modern world and all that good stuff, globalization, the global society. We really have a macro understanding of how the system works. How do we now identify these discontinuities which separate the modern social institutions from traditional social institutions? Essentially, what are the consequences of shifting from, traditionalism to modernity? again, referring to my textbook, I found 3 key elements. And the first one was the sheer pace of change. This means that traditional civilizations, although they were seen as more dynamic, the rapidity in changes of the conditions of modernity is extreme. We see how this has affected climate change, the economy, how we interact, and the biggest change of this being technology, especially in our generation. We're now more interconnected than ever. You're able to be close to someone who is thousands of miles away from you than you are your next door neighbor. And then the other one is the scope of change. People are being more drawn into interconnections, sharing of cultures, style, wealth, aesthetics. Waves of social transformation crash virtually around the whole globe. So now we've seen that there's all this mixing of cultures and sharing of ideologies, aesthetics and things, and we're all able to share these things. They're no longer exclusive to one place. We all share them. We all influence off of each other. Nothing is really, I guess, like I said, individuality is dead, essentially. So we're all kind of just trying to keeping up with the Joneses, essentially. And technology, especially, I think, style, culture in the sense of like slang and like what's cool these days. A lot of this stuff we pick up from outside or we all share. Like for me, a lot of my slang is a mixture of like obviously like Malawian slang, but I've also incorporated, US slang, and by being exposed to a lot of UK shows and a lot of the UK culture through the internet, I've also picked up on some of the UK lingo as well. Have I touched base in the UK? No. But it's just, those are just the consequences. We learn how to share these things, essentially. And the last one is the nature of modern institutions, meaning that some of these modern social forms are not found in history, such as the political system of the nation state, the wholesale dependence of production upon inanimate power sources, and the ongoing commodification of products and wage labor. So essentially, we don't really have anything to compare modernity to. This is not something we can be like, okay, so based in the past, how has this gone? This is a new thing. It's still relatively going on. And I don't think we're going to be able to fully assess the scope of things or understand it until we're like in the later stages or towards the end, which I think we are in now. I think we're definitely we're way past, I guess, modernity and getting more into post-modernity, which I'll touch on towards the end. But what does that essentially mean? What does that look like? How is that going to further affect us? Because these consequences are happening and they're real. But again, I do think it is up to us to sit down and dialogue and just understand how much the system has affected our livelihood, our lives, our culture, our communities, and really just, think of better ways that we can help. Think of better ways we can hold government accountable, better ways to make this knowledge more accessible, and just opening up spaces, having more nuanced conversations, not subscribing to groupthink, like just humor people you don't really agree with, see things from a different perspective. And I guess I am an idealist as well, like with Marx and Weber, but in the sense that I don't trust that the system is going to help us. I think collectively we all have to find a way to just be, I guess, harmonious. I know that's wishful thinking, but I think there is a way we can all just be able to exist in this world and not just, I'll have my things, but you can have yours things type of energy, but just letting people do them, letting people be free, and using the access that we have, the privileges, the knowledge that we have to help those less fortunate who really don't have someone to advocate for them. But modernity discourages that. It's very selfish. It's about you advancing to the top. But I really do have faith in our generation, I think we are a little more inquisitive. But again, what tends to happen in society, as you know, when they see one thing is not working, we tend to overcorrect and swing to the opposite other end of the pendulum, which is not going to work. People saying, oh, Malawi needs to go back under colonization or dictatorship rule. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Trust. It's not going to work. Why would we go back to shit that has not worked for us before type of energy? I think it's really time to just find something new, dismantle the system. But again, like I said, that's wishful thinking. The system's not going to crumble tomorrow, next week, or next year. But I think just prepping ourselves and equipping ourselves with knowledge will give us better chances of knowing when things actually do come down. Instead of all being confused, it's usually those times when, systems get dismantled or things are going crazy. People rise up, who rise up from the hysteria and the craziness, and they want to just steer the world in the way they think it is. Think of people like, Headline Friends. Trump. I'm sorry. But yeah, essentially, life after capitalism. Can we all imagine a life after capitalism or a life without capitalism? I think it's very hard to, because it's always known, it's all we've grown up in. But I think we can all see that capitalism cannot be carried out indefinitely because we have limited resources. I was reading this article and they said that what would have to happen was a redistribution of wealth would have to take place. But I think it's going to be hard to divide that because a lot of these assets are in private property. The fact that private property is a thing now, you can't just redistribute that land. Well, they can, they just don't want to, type of thing, We have seen this a lot where they come and then they take a good chunk and then they say, there you go. Think about what happened to the indigenous in North America, South America, Australia, type of thing. Like, these things happen and it's hard to do that. And with now all these other dimensions of modernity, such as surveillance and administrative power, the increase in surveillance is how a lot of nations are turning to democracies, how a lot of nations are able to be like, are they complying, or do we have to go in there and really up the big brothering, type of energy? And I think what's more likely to happen is that a more coordinated global political order is likely to emerge. And again, if we're not careful and if we just kind of sit back and be like, no, the systems experts have got it, we're going to see a lot of the remixes, America and British and all those superpowers, a remix of what they want, what they're going to do. And yeah, I think that would be disastrous for all of us, for the globe. I think it's really our time, especially us young Africans who are now equipped with the knowledge. We are privileged enough to have this access. I think it's really up to us to really, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say shake the boot, but I really want us to just get more inquisitive about this. Think about how we can do something without always needing to use their shit, because thinking that we're gonna build up or make things better using the master's tools when it hasn't worked for them, I don't think is gonna be beneficial. I really think we have to do something wholly different, and whatever that looks like, we have to discourse first. But first, y'all gotta read .gov.net, .edus.orgs. Google Scholar is a thing. Like, let's read, let's get inquisitive, let's talk, let's have more nuanced conversations and really understand that this shit is, and I think my stay in the US, I had my own experience. My experience does not speak for the collective of people there, but kind of just going there and seeing how they live life and how the system is set up and how everything is, you just realize why that place is so chaotic and just so depressing, because the system is rigged. It's literally set up for you to fail. It's set up for a small few to prosper, and those small few are usually white males who have access to capital. Now, if you have access to capital and you're in a state where you can kind of, I guess, blind yourself from this, which I don't think you really can, then you have a relatively okay time in the US. But I think an on the ground experience, staying there for like a good chunk of all my uni time, I really saw that the way this shit is, and I was able to appreciate my home country more. The small things that we do in our culture that we take for granted, organic food there is a luxury. Healthcare is a luxury. And that shit here, we get it all the time. We take it for granted. Things that the small romanticizations that we have in our culture of, when it's raining, we all just sit collectively and watch the rain, having 4 o'clock tea with your family, just the small things that we really hold dear and valuable, the traditional things that they would call, those things are slowly dying. And, it's because of that I am back home. I chose to leave because I was just like, I don't want to help a system that is clearly not here for me. I'd rather just go home and, figure out what I can do in my sector of the world. Do I think I'm going to make this global worldwide change? No. But I think staying true to myself and actually creating a space, or starting to open up a space where we can all just talk and be, the next people to kind of discourse about this and figure out where we're at and where we're going, I think is very important. And what that looks like, I don't know. But I think it's better to talk about it and understand it than to just kind of sit here and be like, well, when we get there, we'll figure it out. As much as these companies, these systems try to stress the opportunity side, we see that it is a lie, and we see how capitalism has been responsible for upholding and perpetuating things such as slavery, Jim Crow, all that stuff that happened to the Black people in the United States. Like, capitalism is the reason that has happened, is the reason that was able to keep going. They use capitalism as that excuse to be like, well, they are labor. Shit like that. So it's just, yeah, that's how colonization was able to happen. Like, they're expanding. Their idea of expansion is them being at the top and us being at the bottom. So with all my sources and everything, I'll be linking them all down below if you guys want to check them out. Fact check me if you guys want to read them out for yourself. If, just if you guys want to check them out and just to make sure that I'm actually hold me accountable. I'm giving you guys the space to hold me accountable. And yeah, but this has been great. I've had such a good time with y'all. The next video will be out in a month, 3 weeks. I hope, I pray. Said it, so I gotta do it. But this has been really great, and I hope you guys enjoyed it and everything. And yeah, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I never thought I'd be saying those things, but yeah, genuinely do it. Tell me how you liked it. Tell me how you liked the format. I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time.